Throughout the Great War, many Covenant fleets brought devastation to humanity, obliterating their defenses and incinerating their worlds. But all paled in comparison to one. This was one of the greatest fleets of its kind, one that laid low numerous planets for the sake of the Great Journey. A fleet that was commanded by one of the most brilliant Sangheili Commanders in the entire Covenant Navy. This was the fleet of Particular Justice. 10 years had passed since the beginning of the war, and the ruling hierarchs ordered the complete reorganization of our military forces, despite the protests from the counselors and other high-ranking fleet masters. As a result, new fleets were formed, including that of Particular Justice. In the beginning, it was comprised of only 5 vessels, but in time it would grow into a mighty force of 60 warships. In our campaign against the humans, few fleets came to the renown as the fleet of Particular Justice and its commander, Thel Vadami. Thel's devotion to the Great Journey was unwavering, to the point that he even slew a fellow Sangheili when he dared draw his blade in the presence of 2 hierarchs. Because of this, Thel was rewarded a place within the fleet. He was one of the youngest to achieve the status of shipmaster, and one of the youngest still to gain the rate of Supreme Commander. And unlike most commanders at the time, Vadami would often personally lead his warriors into battles. One of the earliest engagements of the Particular Justice was upon the world known as Campbell. Vadami's tactical mind allowed the fleet to slip through the human defenses and caught the creatures completely unaware. While 17 vessels bombarded key defensive positions, Vadami personally led a strike force on the human headquarters. The infidels were caught so unawares that when Vadami faced them, they were barely equipped for battle. However, he saw little honor in killing such a defenseless foe, even ones as reviled as these, so he allowed the humans to arm themselves before he engaged them, finishing them off with little challenge. After ridding the planet of the unholy vermin, the cleansing of Camber began, and it showed their leaders the might of Thel Vadami and the fleet of Particular Justice. Their greatest triumph came late in the war, during the cleansing of the human fortress world called Reach. The fleet of Particular Justice, alongside her sister fleet of Holy Respite, formed a blockade over the planet as they set fire to it. However, a single human vessel managed to break through and fled into slipspace. The fleet of Particular Justice gave chase, and soon arrived at the most important discovery in the history of the Covenant, the Sacred Ring, Halo. This was to be a glorious celebration. The fulfillment of the prophecy was at hand, and the beginning of the Great Journey was nigh. But only shame was brought onto the fleet. Petty political infighting began between the Supreme Commander and the minor Prophet of Stewardship. All the while, the fleet's warriors fought against the humans for control of the ring world, and in their ignorance awoke an ancient horror, the Flood. This threw both the forces on the ground and the fleet above into chaos. A ship known as the Infinite Succour was lost to the parasite, but thankfully destroyed before it could escape into open space. Then came the gravest of sacrilege. The demon destroyed the Sacred Ring and scattered the fleet of Particular Justice's forces. What few remained returned to High Charity in great shame. Thel Vadami himself was tried for heresy and stripped of his station, and would later become the personal enforcer of the High Prophets and Arbiter. The mightiest war vessel was the Seeker of Truth, Vadami's own flagship. Like all CAS-class assault carriers, the Seeker of Truth is a force to be reckoned with, and with Vadami as its commander, it was a nigh-on undefeatable foe, as it led the rest of the fleet to glorious conquest. While even among the fleet, most of the other starships paled in comparison to this mighty carrier, they were just as committed to the fulfillment of the journey. One such vessel was the battle cruiser, Truth and Reconciliation. It was built on the direct orders of the High Prophet of Regret and assigned within the fleet. Following the destruction of the fortress world of Reach, it was one of the first vessels to pursue the fleeing humans to the Holy Ring. This warship was commanded by Lat Ravami, elevated from the Zealot Order by the Prophet of Regret's own hand. Lat was a fanatical believer in the Great Journey, who would sacrifice anything and anyone in his pursuit. Under Ravami's command, the Truth and Reconciliation was one of the first ships in the Armada to successfully track the UNSC Pillar of Autumn in their attempt to escape the fall of Reach. Upon ultimately arriving at the humans' destination, Ravami found himself nearly overcome with joy, his lifelong pursuits vindicated in the discovery of the Holy Ring. Once positioned over the surface of the ancient installation, Ravami immediately began preparing his ship to act as a primary staging area for the Covenant to begin their reclamation of the Holy Ring. His great journey, however, would never be realized, as the shipmaster would ultimately meet his demise at the hands of the accursed demon. And when the parasite overwhelmed the surface of the ring, his vessel was ultimately destroyed by the hands of humans who sabotaged it. In a fleet as mighty as that of Particular Justice, not all of their ships were built for war. Some vessels were made to sustain the fleet in long campaigns and for long journeys. Such was the task of the Infinite Succour, an agricultural support vessel under command of the Legate, the Minister of Etymology. The Infinite Succour would be the first ship to fall to the accursed flood, as it crashed an infected spirit right into the belly of it. Thankfully, the entire ship was destroyed before it could send its infected cargo into deep space. It was destroyed by a Covenant strike force under command of the venerable Urtas Vadumi. What became of the fleet of Particular Justice? No one knows for certain, but rumors abound. Many suspect that it may have been assimilated into the defense fleet surrounding the holy city of High Charity as a form of atonement for their failure. Others believe they were dissolved completely. What is known is that the fleet of Particular Justice earned its keep for the scores of humans slain and worlds burned for the pride of the Covenant.